Amazing day to wonderful you out there. Amazing day to wonderful you out there. I am Kenneth Onwuzuka, Coach Kubitus, and your host on the Secret to Success live show brought to you by Destino Boun Surelite. Our mission is to help you achieve success, happiness, and smile in your life. And I am excited to welcome you to another section of the Secret to Success live show on the theme, the 21st Century Culture and Women Progress. And today on this section, I will be having a wonderful woman with me all the way from South Africa, Dr. Nomzamo Dube. And she will be presenting on the topic, the 21st Century Culture and Women Progress. I will give you a rundown of how our section is going to be, which is, I can see some people are joining us and going away. You can join the show. We are just starting the show. Join the show. You are welcome for those who are joining the show. After the introduction, which I'm doing now, we'll move to the citation of our distinguished guests. Then after that, we'll begin the presentation proper. After the presentation proper, we will begin the question and answer section, where your question, you ask question, and you will receive answers live and direct from our guests. And then we'll have announcement, and we close. People are still trying to join us, so I implore you to hold on a bit so that we can have a few audience join us, because I see some person are trying to join us and going away. And then we'll begin with the citation of our distinguished guest. You are welcome. You are welcome. I can see you. You are welcome to the Secret to Success live show. Thank you for joining us at this moment. People are joining in. I know it is going to be inspiring today. I am still on the introduction, and we'll soon proceed to the citation of our distinguished guest. And then we'll proceed to the presentation proper by Dr. Nomzamo Dube. We will begin the citation in a few seconds from now. So I implore you to sit back on a wonderful section that is going to be historical, cultural, and economical significant today. We will proceed because of time. I know people are trying to join us. Because of time, we are going to proceed to the citation of the guests soon. Because of time, we will proceed to the citation of the guests soon, which will take place soon. Thank you for joining us on the Secret to Success live show. Thank you for joining us on the Secret to Success live show. Thank you for joining us on the Secret to Success live show. We have people who are trying to join in. Some are trying to call. Join in the show. Some are trying to call me. No, you join the show. That is how we do it at this point in time. All right, we'll begin the citation of our distinguished guest. And if need be, we may go back to it because we'll still have people who are joining us on the show. Citation of the distinguished guests on the Secret to Success live show. Theme: the 21st century culture and women progress. Date: 10th of September 2020. Our distinguished guest is Dr. Nomzamo Dube. Dr. Nomzamo Dube was born in Mozambique, a plum tree, a ruler. Permit me to bring him to wait for some time while I take the citation again. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to the Secret to Success live show. Citation of our distinguished guest, Dr. Nomzamo Dube. Dr. Nomzamo Dube was born in Mosondom, a rural village in Plum Tree, Zimbabwe. She currently resides in South Africa, and she holds a PhD in media studies from Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University, Port Elizabeth, South Africa. She currently works with the University of Hare, South Africa. It will interest you to know that Dr. Nomzamo Dube is the author of Milk, Bale, and Honey, available on Amazon. At this point, I beg your indulgence to read to us a brief excerpt about the book titled Milk, Bale, and Honey, written by our distinguished guest here with us at this point in time. About the book Milk, Bale, and Honey, written by our distinguished guest. Thank you for joining us. And if you're just joining us in, we are on the citation of our distinguished guest. And I am trying to read about her work, Milk, Bale, and Honey, available on Amazon. And if you're just joining us in, you are welcome to the Secret to Success live show. With us is our distinguished guest, Dr. Nomzamo Dube, a Zimbabwe-born, working with University of Hare, South Africa. And it will interest you to know that Dr. Nomzamo Dube has written a work titled Milk, Bale, and Honey, available on Amazon. And I beg your indulgence to take a precept on that, or what the book is all about. I will proceed. About the book, Milk, Bale, and Honey. Born and raised in Mosondom village, Plum Tree, Southern Rhodesia, a young man joined the armed struggle with the hopes of enjoying the fruits of a liberated Zimbabwe. The end of the armed struggle became the beginning of a moment of madness in the country, which left thousands dead, forcing him to flee the country as a fugitive. He finds himself in the heart of Hebrew, a Johannesburg residential area, where it is survival of the fittest. Living as an undocumented foreigner was no cup of coffee. His life soured when his buried past reincarnated to haunt him. With the scarcity of employment in Johannesburg, the young man finds himself garden boy piece jobs, working for bars. Life further castrates him when he gets unfairly dismissed by his boss for an ironic reason. He began living the day he decided to stop job hunting. This is going to make a great library. From what the book is about, I already see that this book is going to be a great read. And it is available on Amazon. It's also available in South Africa. We have it, she has it in audio, that is the ebook, and the paperback. And on Amazon, the book goes for $8. Further details on where and how to get this book will be available and provided to you in the announcement section. Before we proceed, and permit me, before I proceed and present to you Dr. Nomzamo Dube, a Zimbabwe-born, working and residing in South Africa with the University of Fort Hare, South Africa. I want to remind you on what our session is all about today. After the introduction, we have the citation of the guest, which I am still on, the presentation proper. And after the presentation proper, we'll go to the question and answer section, where you will have opportunity to ask questions, and we'll answer your question live and direct. To get your question answers, you will need to type it on during the question and answer section, or you can simply send a text to +234 901472 8587, and I will get to read your question out, and our guests will give you the answer. Finally, I present to you this distinguished woman, a woman of repute, Dr. Nomzamo Dube. Behold, ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guest, Dr. Nomzamo Dube. Let's put a round of applause wherever we are to welcome her. Ma, you are welcome to the Secret to Success live show, and thank you for accepting to come to this show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Kenneth. You know, I'm so happy to be here. And for the record, this is my first time being on Instagram Live. I'm technologically challenged, so I'm glad I managed to log on. You know. Thank you very much for this. Welcome to everybody who just joined in. And Brother Kenneth mentioned about my baby. This is my book. It's called Milk, Bile, and Honey, and is based on a true story. So the book is available on Amazon. When you go to Amazon, you just type Milk, Bile, and Honey, and you're going to get the book. Thank you very much, Brother Kenneth. And let me just go straight to the topic. You know, our topic reads the 21st century culture and women progress, you know. And I'm just tempted to go straight to talk about women, because there is so much that we can talk about women in this day and age. There's so much that is going on about women emancipation, the challenges that women are facing, and so forth. But before I dwell on women specifically, let me just probably talk about culture a bit, you know, because culture is one of the key words of the topic. So what does culture speak to? Yes. When we talk about culture, we think of culture as something that is stagnant, something that is there, something that can never change. You know, we speak about African culture, and we don't think of culture as something that can evolve, you know. So culture speaks to shared patterns of behaviors. It speaks to a group identity. We have what you call in African culture. You have what you call, probably, let me speak to you, Kenneth, you have what you call a Nigerian culture, right? In Nigeria, there's also an Igbo culture. There's also an Yoruba culture, right? So culture speaks to this group of people, this identity. It speaks to, you know, this group identity that people share as a group. So it can be from a larger perspective, or even from a smaller perspective, but it's still what? It's still culture. And you know, there are these cultural traits that we have, you know, and sometimes you don't really know that we have. For instance, in South Africa or in Zimbabwe, there are not many Nigerians, but when you hear a Nigerian speak, you can tell that this is Nigerian, you know. So they have a way, they have a way of speaking, and that I think that is attributed to how they were raised. it was associated to them when they're growing up, you know. So that is something that is learned, and it speaks to culture. So some of the aspects or traits of culture would speak to the dress codes, you know, the food. You guys eat different foods. And I remember when I was a student at Res, hey, Nigerians would mix different things, you know, dried fish and whatever, you know. And it's something that is cultural, you know, it's something that they would only understand. We have our own different kinds of food. So food can also be cultural, you know. We have different beliefs, basing on different cultures. I mean, we have different things that we believe is right and also what we believe is wrong, you know. Culture also speaks to other traits such as marriage, you know. People from different backgrounds see marriage differently. Others think marriage is a must, others don't, depending on where you're coming from, right? So why am I breaking these different views of culture? I want people to understand that culture is not only this very big identity, like you said, this is an African culture. You know, culture can be narrowed down even to a family, in as much as you come from this Nigerian culture, but there are some things that are specific to your particular family, right? And I'm coming now to this issue of women. Now that there's a certain culture of how you do things in your particular family, how are the gender roles negotiated then within that particular family, within the culture of your own family? Let's just hang in there. I'm going to go back to the issue of women. Now, how is culture acquired? Bear in mind, when a child is born innocent. They don't know anything about culture. Therefore, culture is not something that is inborn. It's something that is acquired, you know. So it's something that we learn at some point. So if you can learn a culture, you can therefore unlearn a culture. And what am I saying by that is that there are toxic cultural traits that you know, that are there in our societies. So if we can learn certain cultures, we can therefore be able to unlearn those cultures, you know. So culture, how is culture learned? Culture is learned through teaching. I mean, we learn a lot of things maybe in school. We are taught even by our parents. Culture is learned through imitations. I mean, we imitate what we see on a day-to-day basis. You know, we imitate our parents. When we were children growing up, would have, you know, we'd imitate what a mother should do, imitate what a father should do, based on what we see. So culture is also learned through what? Imitations, you know. And there are also other forms of social transmission, just socialization. By you being in a certain group, somehow you are learning something about that particular culture. So like I said, culture can also be toxic, you know. And my other important point that I want to mention is that culture evolved, you know. So when you think about culture, let me just give an example of an African culture. When you think about an African culture, you'd think that, okay, an African culture, you know, is something that is stagnant, you know, it's something that is there, something that cannot change, you know, culture of patriarchy, a lot of different things, you know, probably dress codes, but these things can change. So culture is evolving, culture is not stagnant, and we should bear in mind that. Consider how things were done, you know, in the early 1900s, you know, when our grandparents were still alive, you know, and our great-parents, and compare with how things are done now. You get to realize that, yes, we are Africans. Yes, we still have the African culture, but things have changed. So with whatever that we do, we should make sure that we bear in mind that things are changing. And we should also think about this when it comes to our families, how things are done within families. You know, we should consider that things change. So in as much as human beings are evolving each and every day that passes by, also culture is changing, and change is inevitable because we are living beings, and everything that we do, it changes, it evolves, you know. So yes, because the topic speaks to issues of culture in the 21st century and women, you know, vis-a-vis women progress in society, I want to do something like I want to compare a bit, you know. I'm going to compare how culture was with relation to women in the early 20th century. So when I'm talking about the early 20th century, I'm talking about the early 1900 up to maybe let me just say 1980. how things were done then and how things are done now when it comes to women progress. Our grandmothers used to be domesticated. Their only place was in the kitchen. You know, what a woman could do was only to cook and to do household chores. And there was nothing beyond that they could do other than bearing children. You know, so that was the space of a woman. Women back then would bear 9 to 10 children because that was their only role, you know. But compare it to with what is happening today. I'm going to come back to things that are happening today. We had specific gender roles back then. And let me give an example of my parents. For instance, I said I come from a rural space. In fact, my colleague here, Brother Kenneth, mentioned that where I come from. I come from a rural space, right? And I'm going to give an example of my parents. When they wake up in the morning to go and work in the fields, my mother and my father, they're going to do the same job, right? From 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. They'll be doing the same thing. When they come back, my father is going to sit down. My mother is going to prepare water for my father. After my father is done washing, my mother is going to prepare food. Bear in mind, my father is seated. After that, she's going to clean again. She's going to wash dishes. My father is seated. In the afternoon, my mother is going to take care of children. My father is seated. He's still resting. In the evening, my mother is going to prepare water for my father to go and bath again. My father is seated. She's going to cook. She's going to do the cleaning. So those were the roles of a traditional woman, you know. And in as much as we may argue about it, this is something that is unfair, really, because you are doing the same job in the field, but now somebody is seated and somebody is doing all the job, you know. So that is how women have been seen, you know. They are responsible for all these chores. We have other issues, you know, that have been affecting women. For instance, I'll just give brief examples. For instance, when people are married and they cannot have children, you know, when a woman is the one who said to be barren, is the one who said to not to be able to conceive, you know, before even checking if the man is okay. Women who cannot conceive are considered as witches. I read Buchi Emecheta. I see most people here are coming from Nigeria. I read Buchi Emecheta's book. What is the title? What's the title? The Joys of Motherhood. Yes, The Joys of Motherhood. You know, and one of the main characters there couldn't conceive, and because she couldn't conceive, she was regarded as a witch. And there wasn't any scientific proof to check if probably there was something that could be done. She was just labeled as a witch because of that, you know. So that is how our women have been seen, you know. We have other cultural or traditional, you know, things that are done in our African societies. I'm not sure in Nigeria, but in South Africa and also parts of Zimbabwe, there's polygamy. Women are really not consulted when it comes to marrying a second wife. If she's consulted, she's just consulted just in passing, not that her say matters. But can a woman have a second husband? I know it happens in other parts of the country, but that is very rare. Can a woman have a second husband? And women agree to this polygamy because they are afraid to go back to their families. Because if you leave your marriage, you are seen as a failure. You're seen as if you have already failed, you know. But if a man divorces, he's still a man and nothing changes, you know. So that is how our society is. And our parents, when you're a girl child, you get married. When you tell your parents that, hey, mama, hey, things are not going well, she will say, you know what, my child, make sure that you keep that man. Be patient with him. It's going to be fine. That is how our traditional parents are telling us. And we have gender-based violence. You know, women are being killed on a day-to-day basis because they are told, you know, to be patient, and they've been patient for a long time until the time of their death. You know, so that is the predicament that women are facing. In our traditional African cultures, women have had no say about them. For instance, let me just say, like me, a girl child, you know, in the traditional society, I would not have a say about my own life. It is my father who decides my fate. If my father decides that I have to go and get married to somebody else, next door, that's it. It's either it's my father who decides my fate, or it is my husband who decides my fate. Otherwise, I'm just a zombie, standing or seated there, as if I'm not somebody who's able to think for myself. So this is how, the traditional culture has been stamping on women, Mothers, for instance, let me speak about the traditional circumcision. I'm not sure if it happens in Nigeria, but in South Africa, there's the traditional circumcision where when a child is being circumcised, women are excluded. So women, basically, they're excluded from things that have to do with their daughters. When a girl is getting married, when they're paying, in South Africa, we call it lobola. When they're paying that lobola, a woman doesn't even know how much is charged for their own daughter. When their son is getting circumcised, they don't even know what transpires there in that circumcision episode. They'll just be told that everything's done, But just bear in mind that this is your own child that we carried in your tummy for, 9 months, but you have no say. And sometimes women probably who are not married or who are not staying with their husbands. But we have other men, maybe uncles or whoever, they will come and have a say about your child and you have no say. We have arranged marriages. Just imagine just waking up and you're told you're going to go and get married. You don't even know, what happens there. We have issues of other cultures have genital mutilation, And we also have a very sensitive issues of virginity. Virginity is valuable for women. It's something else, but how about men? What makes men different from women, Now, let me just go back to, I was comparing the past and the present. So in as much as there is a change, but we still have other challenges. But let me talk about the change. I think the same way we see patriarchy, or the same way we see women as how we view women, issues of emancipation or issues of inequality when it comes to women, is the same way we should see issues of colonialism. Remember, right now we are trying to undo issues of colonialism, to say Black people should stand for their own business. Black people should be able to rule their own countries. Black people should be given equality. The same way we advocate for the equality of Black people, it should be the same way we advocate for the equality of women, because women are also equal citizens, So basically, in the 21st century, there's a move towards the emancipation of women. We have advocacy for the education of women. There are scholarships specifically for women. When I was doing my honors, I had a scholarship, and the scholarship that I had was specifically for women, and I applied because I was a woman. So there's that, people are trying to close that gap to say women are also human beings. Women are also capable, just like the boy child, or just like men. So there is an increase of women empowerment programs, paving way for economically independent women who become breadwinners in some instances. Now we have women who are providers in families. So back then, I'm a Christian, and I strongly believe that the man is the head of the family. Don't get me wrong. The man is the head of the family. But at some point, the man was the head of the family just because he's the only one who was able to provide, right? Now I believe that the man is the head of the family still. But when it comes to provision, sometimes things change. It can be the woman who's providing, but that does not stop the men from being the head, that authority that they're God given, right? So we have women who are providers, we have women who are breadwinners, So you may have a number, maybe 10 men in the family, brothers, but the little sister is the one providing for the family. So things have changed. So my point is, recently chanting the issue of Black Lives Matter, I feel like the same way we chant issues of Black Lives Matter, it should be the same way we chant the issues of Women Lives Matter, Yeah. Because, yes, advocating for equality, and that equality is genderless. Equality for everybody, I'm just going to give an example, that gender roles have changed. Now we have women that are doing previously masculine jobs. We have women that are working in construction now. We have women that are security guards. And sometimes when you're a security guard, you work in the evening, right? And if you work maybe from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., where are you going to get time to prepare supper for your husband? And we have these husbands who are very strict. They would say, I'm not going to eat a meal that is prepared by a helper. I want by my wife. But with this gender roles, things have changed. We want the money, and the wife cannot be kneeling down every day because she has to call for duty, you know. So, like I said, we've previously masculine job responsibilities, but things have changed. Now we have we have men who are chefs, you know. And back then, you know, cooking was only for women. We have men who are chefs, we have men who are cooks. And this narrows down to how we raise our children. If you're going to raise a boy child, say you're not going to do anything in the kitchen, you don't know their destiny. What if they are going to be a cook? What if they are going to be a chef? And as I said, the administrator in our office is male. You know, previously the role of the administrator or secretary, the running around was for women, the printing, the whatever. But for us, it's a male who's doing that. The cleaner, the guy who cleans the building, is a male. So if you're going to raise a child, say, no, my child, you cannot be washing dishes. No, my girl child, you cannot be working in the garden. You got it wrong because culture is changing and things are changing, you know. Yet, you know. Hello, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still there. Yes, I'm still there.
So I'm saying we may not be there yet, but things are changing. There's hope, a little bit of hope, you know. Women are no longer you know, that men used to be in charge. I spoke about, are you there? Are you there? Yes, I see you are there. Men used to be in charge of the bodies of, now ladies are trying slowly but surely trying to take charge of their own bodies, you know, to be in charge of their own bodies because it's their bodies in the first place. So my point is culture is constantly changing and negotiated. So families should define their own culture and what works for them. You as the head of the family, Kenneth, in the event that you get married, I'm not sure if you're married or not, you know, as the head of the house. Yes, depending on the roles, yes, the roles or the dynamics of your particular family, you should be able to say, my wife has this, she's doing this extra. We have, you know, I always laugh when I see on social media when to the challenges faced by women today in the 21st century. So in as much as somehow there's a change and slowly but surely women, you know, are seeing the light and then are getting
interrupted us. I think you were addressing me if I'm going to when I'm going to raise a family, what I should do. I know many young men
in as much as there's this transition to try to include them, you know. Can you
say something about
in as much as we're trying to eliminate this evil thing called patriarchy, you know, this is what is dividing the society. Patriarchy is what is dividing the society. Brother Kenneth, I'm now on the challenges faced by women in the 21st century. Are you there with me?
yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm talking about patriarchy, which still exists in some cultures, you know. I gave an example of men who would say, I cannot eat a plate that has been prepared by a helper, you know, but we need the money. We are now living in a monetary world, and things have changed. We need the money to survive. I mean, everything now, compared to how things were done in the past, everything is now monetary. We need the money, so we cannot be, while we're hunting for money, we're busy trying to, let me just delete this. Yes. While we're hunting for money, we cannot be trying too much to impress a man, because we're looking for money, you know, and we need this money to raise our children.
Yes, yes.
Women are still facing problems in the workplace. And trust me, I've seen this a lot. In as much as we hold the same position, for instance, I'm in the same position with people, male figures, but somehow you feel it that you are a woman, you know. You feel it that there's a certain level of respect that is expected of you. Men still have that thing that I'm a man, you should respect me, you know, even in the workplace. and you be sent around, you're in the same position, but it's easy for them to be just send you around. They'll be like, no, you can just do this. I think you can do this, because they are used to having people doing things for them, you know. We have work-family conflicts. What I mean about work-family conflict is that, for instance, I have a position in my workplace. At the same time, when I go back home, I should be a mother, I should be a wife, I should be a sister, I should be a daughter-in-law. As a woman, there are a lot of, you know, roles that you hold other than the workplace. Being a daughter-in-law itself is a big role, because you always have to impress, you know. Being a wife itself is a big role. Being a mother is a big role. Being a daughter to your own parents, they have too many expectations of you. So, you know, I wrote this sentence in my book, to, what I got from Animal Farm, to say, in the book Animal Farm, it was said that all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. This is the same statement when it comes to women. In as much as human beings are equal, others are more equal than others. You know, we are still far from that level of equality. For instance, let me just say, I work in Alice. I'm not married. If I get married maybe to a man who's working in Johannesburg right now, who amongst us, who between us is going to be asked to leave their job to join the other? Definitely it's the woman. Definitely it's the woman. The man is not going to leave their job to come and join you, you know. A woman cannot penetrate. You cannot penetrate by virtue of you being a woman. People are going to try to look for a male figure who's going to fill that role. Because you're just a woman, no matter how qualified, no matter how educated you are, there's that glass ceiling, yes. Discrimination. Let me not even talk about discrimination. because by virtue of you wearing a skirt, there's some sense of discrimination, you know. Wage gap differences. You may be in the same position, but when you go to HR, you realize that, hey, we're not getting paid the same amount, you know. And this is something that we're still fighting today. Issues of sexual harassment in the workplace, not even in the workplace. I mean, when I just walking, people start, boys or guys will start whistling. That is just sexual harassment in its own, you know, on its own. So that is what women, you know, are facing on a day-to-day basis. Let me just bring this home and talk about my own story, you know. So when I was young, I mean, I talked about culture. I talked about how we are associated, or we are conditioned, you know, into thinking or believing in a certain way. When I was young, my ultimate goal was to get a degree and get married, you know, to a rich guy. You know, when you're young, your parents will be like, you should make sure that you hold yourself together so that you get married to a rich guy. So we grow up with that thing of wanting to get married, and marriage was the ultimate goal, you know. Everyone will be asking, when are you getting married? That's the question that everybody's asking, you know. So we grow up with that to say, okay, let me get a degree and then just get married. Fine. So when I eventually started studying, I realized that I could just continue, you know. I think I'm enjoying this. Continued. Did my master's. Everybody say you're not overeducated. Who's gonna marry you? You know. So marriage is what has been conditioned. We've been conditioned to think that marriage is the ultimate goal for a girl child. But I've seen people maybe who were forced into marriages, or people who just got married because they have been pressurized. You see that they're not even happy sometimes, you know. They'll be wishing to study, to have their own, you know, qualifications, to have their own careers, you know. So when I eventually registered for PhD, is gonna mess with you, you know. And that made me question the kind of men that we have in society. So it means we have men that are threatened by women. If we're going to say, no one is going to marry you, why are they not going to marry you? What's the reason of them not marrying you? Because you're educated? What's the reason of them not marrying you? Because you have a good job? Isn't it an advantage that you can take care of yourself and eventually you can take care of the children? You know. So basically, my point is that we need to learn and
Okay.
Position for buying.
And my sister, they call me all the time now. Okay. We've been having. To use on laptop. Yeah, you from point because of network interruptions. Instability of the network over here at this point because of rain. It has been raining frequently in the recent days. So, and I lost it because of network interruption. And I lost it from the point you were giving advice, your advice to the women. I think that was where I lost you. I don't know if you can recap from that place so that
Repeat.
viewers will
Let me
be
just
able
repeat
to
quickly.
get.
So I there. You're okay now.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm there. I'm there.
So I said women need to get educated. They need to apply for. They need to apply for jobs. They should start businesses. I mean, you can sell anything. I mean, you can be even in farming. You can do anything. I gave an example. I'm selling beauty products on the side, and not because I do not afford or not because I lack a lot. I'm selling because I love selling, and I want something that is going to add to my income. So that is what women should do to be able to stand on their own 2 feet and not depend too much on other people. Being dependent on other people is a problem because you get vulnerable. When you're dependent on somebody, you cannot say no sometimes.
Yes.
Women should be Yes, women should be in a position to buy themselves necessities that they want. I mean, when you want to do your hair, I shouldn't be thinking of who's going to do my hair, who's going to pay for my hair. I should be able to do my hair for myself as a woman because we are all human. If we're advocating for equality, we are also advocating for equality even in terms of provision. If we're saying men and women should be equal, we mean that women should be able to do things for themselves too. They should also wake up and work and not just depend on the woman. So I was saying women should buy themselves cars. You can't wait for a man to buy for you a car. These days when women are looking for men to be in a relationship, they'll be like, is it driving? How about you? Are you driving? Does he have a house? Do you have a house? So we can't advocate for a one-sided equality. Equality should everything should just be equal. What we are here in this relationship for is love and not material stuff. So I mentioned that in South Africa there's a gender-based violence scourge. I mean, women are being beaten, women are being killed, and it's difficult for them to leave those toxic relationships. Why? Because they're too dependent. If somebody is taking care of you, is providing, is paying rent, buying food, no matter how much they beat you, you're going to stay because they're the sole provider. So what I'm saying is that women should learn to be independent, should learn to start something of themselves, sell anything. You know, you can buy and sell something. Try to go to school if you can. You know, when you get a chance, please do. Another thing, when women see red flags in their relationships, if you're independent enough, it's easy for you to leave. You know, but if you're dependent on that particular man, no matter how much you beat you, you're going to stay. So I said, I'm not sure if you missed this one. I said that I hope people are not going to think of me as somebody who's against men. I'm not against men, but love this other gender, but I'm advocating for equality. I think men complement women, and we cannot live in this world as women alone without men. All I need is for us to be equal, you know, for us to think of the other person, to say, hey, if my wife, I think my wife is tired now, let me assist with the child, let me assist with this, let me assist with that. So to conclude this live, I'm going to say, times are changing, culture is evolving, women are getting emancipated, and slowly but surely there's a move towards equality. But there's still a big problem when it comes to inclusion of women. We are still marginalized. We are still maligned. Women need to work extra hard to position themselves. So my final word to women is to say, to do something for your life. That will be my final word for women. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nomzamo Dube. You have spoke extensively on this topic, on the theme of our section today, the 21st century culture and women progress. And you began with defining what culture is. From there, you mentioned that culture can be evolving, and you went on to talk about ways we acquire cultures, where you mentioned teaching, imitations, and social transmissions, influence, and all that. You went further to talk about what were the roles of women in the past centuries, during the time of our grandmothers, your grandmothers, what their specific gender roles were. And from there, you moved on to challenges of facing the female gender, especially you mentioned work-family conflict, you mentioned some other issues women are facing, sexual harassment, violence in toxic relationships, sexual harassment, and so many others. And what struck me most about your presentation was you was not just that you care for the opposite gender, that is the male gender too. You care, you've cherished them, and you've been with them. Your father is a male, and you have mentioned some of the issues that for the men, this is what our culture in the past have evolved into, like a man being dependent, for the woman to cook for him always, even when the woman cannot afford to do that. You know, woman going to work, having to coming back, cook for him. You mentioned women working as security officers, going to workplaces, coming back late, working as bankers, and there's so many examples you gave. And then finally, you said another thing that I think everybody who have been on this show is also advocating for, is that equality for Black life is equality for everyone. Apart from advocating for equality for Black life, we should also advocate for equality for the female gender. It should be equality for all. And Dr. Nomzamo Dube, you said as much as we are advocating for the racism between the white and the Black, the Blacks are advocating for freedom, for emancipation, their freedom of right, living, and all that. So women too are in need of emancipation from their male gender, because a lot of people have been suffering under that you are treating this topic. And I want to say thank you so much for so much knowledge you have brought to bear on this team today. I have learned so much myself. And for me, I have a question. I already have a question to ask you, and I'm going to ask you very soon on that question. What you have said, our culture needs, people need to get updated on how things are going on now. People should understand that it is no longer what we used to have back then, but now the world has evolved. It is not 24/7 for the male and for the female. You have to go to work, you have to go to school, you have to earn a living. It is no longer just the male providing for the family. Nowadays, women assist massively in providing for the family. Sometimes, some women who don't do that, when the man has a challenge, they are forced to take care of the family, forced to take care of the children and provide for the family. So thank you so much for your Secret to Success show. I am very grateful to have you, and many people have been saying a lot of wonderful things on the show because it has been full of knowledge and learning experience for me. So my question is, before I start taking other questions, I have a question. My question is for a young man like me who will soon be getting into a family life. How do I need to, what are the orientations I need before I go into a family life with a female gender? What do I need to know? What do I need to do? How am I expected to contribute to in my own part in this equality for everybody?
Okay, I thank you, brother Kenneth, for that particular question. You know what? I think when it comes to marriage, I'm not yet married myself, but marriage has no formula, you know. You just have to see the other gender as a human being. You know, see her as a human first before you see her as a wife. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
See her as a human being who has feelings, somebody who can also get tired. Whatever she's doing, just think, if you cannot assist, just think for her to say, is she not tired? You know, think of the other responsibilities that she has when it comes to children. How can you assist? Now that you have probably your wife doing this and you are doing this, try to advocate for fairness to say, okay, my wife is doing this, let me do this. Who are the other people that we stay with in the family